welcome to the October 2018 edition of City Connection. We're live today, and this is the live call-in program where you, citizens of Grand Rapids, can ask your city elected official about local issues. With Community Media Center, I'm Linda Gellasch, and in studio with me today is 2nd Ward Commissioner Ruth Kelly. She's live in the studio to cover a number of topics that relate to you and the city, and we'll even take your questions later in the show. We'll be inviting in the next few minutes Joel Hondorp. He's the new city clerk for Grand Rapids, and we'll talk a little bit about what he's learned in his first 6 months, including August's primary elections, what's coming up for November 6th, and what we expect to see then. We'll be back with you at the end of the show to take your questions on general city issues, and you do that with our email address. It's cityconnection@grcmc.org, or it's Twitter, GRTV Access. We also are looking at comments on Facebook page and live streaming on therapidian.org. Commissioner Ruth Kelly, welcome to the studio.
Thanks, Linda. It's good to be back.
You've done this a few times now, and it's always good to get a 2nd Ward perspective. Although you serve on a commission that oversees the whole city, we like to learn a little bit about the specifics of each ward, and wanted to ask you what's happening in the 2nd Ward.
Well, upcoming for the neighborhood associations are their annual meetings. So just about every single one of them has an annual meeting coming up in the fall. And so October will be very busy. Commissioner Jones and I will try to stop by at each and every one of those and learn what's going on. But we do meet with our organizers once a month, so we stay in touch and communicate. One exciting change in the ward is that Gordon Foods has opened up now on Michigan Street. So we have both Bridge and Michigan Street have a grocery store in town.
Same street, separate ends of it, basically.
Exactly.
And I was not even aware, I didn't even see that one on the radar until the opening was announced last week.
Yes, right. And I know Gordon Foods will have a market too, a meat market, fresh meat, which is nice. So people have been wanting grocery stores in that area for a long time. It was always a disappointment that we didn't get one on the corner of Fuller and Michigan, but
we lost one there a few years ago.
We did. There was one for many years, so it's good to have one back in the neighborhood. It's kind of hard sometimes to get all the way out on Alpine or 28th Street or the Beltline.
And with some central focus on residential walking areas, and with a lot of the new housing on these urban kind of main streets, so to speak, need the food, need the grocery.
And another thing that's happened on Michigan Street, speaking of Michigan Street, is that the Bus 19 now is running and it's free. So Spectrum Health partnered with the City of Grand Rapids and the Rapid to provide free transportation up and down Michigan Street all day. And so it runs every 15 minutes, and then it bumps it to only 10 minutes during the busy time of the day when people are getting out of work, so about 4 o'clock to 7. And that keeps some of the people off of from having to shuttle back and forth from the hospital too. They had a lot of shuttle buses, and it's already going. Okay. It's happened.
And first thing in the morning, and goes until evening. And
yes.
And how far does it go out, Michigan, from?
It'll get you to the Bridge Street Market and then Plymouth, so it's back and forth. Yeah.
All right. What else? We look at the west side. We're over here right now, and you even commented on how it is to get down Bridge Street these days.
It is. Yeah.
What about? So that's evident to us. What about all the other additions and all the things that are going on further out in other sections of the 2nd Ward?
Well, Knapp Corner has gotten some new businesses. Hopcat is out there. Apartments have been built, and more are coming online. I know that St. John's Home is expecting to do some expansion to provide more opportunity for them to consolidate some of their other buildings and provide services for our young people in need. So I think it's just, we're seeing development pop up all over the place. There's another development too that will be happening on Michigan Street between Plymouth and the East Beltline, and that will offer some market rate living in initially apartments, but they'll probably be converted to condos once they get sold gradually. So we're just seeing a lot of development all over, which is great. It brings a lot of amenities, but it also brings a lot of traffic. So it's that difficult space that we're in. And then you add to that the fact that we are always repairing roads. It makes it very difficult to get around town right now.
Okay. And then when you look at the development that's happening, and there's already difficulties in finding affordable housing sometimes.
Absolutely.
The city and the Housing Commission are partnering on an effort to kind of pair people that are at lower income households with opportunities for housing? Is that
Yes.
something you could tell us a little bit more about?
Yes, we are going to establish a fund for affordable housing, and that will be, the city will contribute to that, because whenever there's a development that is given any kind of tax break, so it could be a neighborhood enterprise zone, brownfield credit, obsolete property exemption, any of those, we always estimate how much income tax will come into the city because of the residents who will move in. So we've already decided that we will use that income tax money to help fund that affordable housing component, and then add that as best we can to other monies that come into the city from the state with the low-income housing tax credits, and or there are other state opportunities through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation sometimes. But if we can just add that little bit of extra in order to win an award or make something doable to add some affordable housing, we intend to do that. And then we are also recently passed an ordinance to work with the Housing Commission to provide people who are renting homes with the ability to get some help if they are going to need to go out shopping for rentals in a rental application. We heard from several of our lower income residents who were looking for rentals that they would have to pay a fee to every single landlord to get their credit checked and a background check done. So we are partnering with the Housing Commission to be a place where people can go and get that service done and just pay one small fee, and then also have the opportunity to, if need be, clear up their credit and get some counseling to do that. So we're looking for every opportunity we can to find that support for people who are really struggling to find affordable housing.
Any sort of census number or any ideas on where we are as far as capacity or saturation of housing, and how much is available out there in the different income brackets, whether it's the low affordable housing or just in general in Grand Rapids right now, what housing is affordable and available?
Well, we're still in a crisis when it comes to low income. There's no question about that. There's a slight slowing down of those people who are maybe going into market rate, but all systems look as though we're going to continue to see this growth in the city. You know, we're a city that's brought in a lot of amenities. We have events like Art Prize. We are hitting a lot of lists, which are great, but then the downside of that, of course, is that things get more expensive, especially in the area of housing. We are hoping that perhaps the federal government will take another look at that. There are proposals out there, but that's going to depend in large part too, I think, on who gets elected this November. So that's a waiting game for us. We don't really know what more assistance there will be in terms of addressing low income. And what we'd really like to see is mixed income, because we know that in order to get at this disparate impact and provide housing choice for people so that the families can choose where they want to send their child to school, and for that matter to even lower crime rates, you really need to have mixed income situations and not concentrate poverty.
Okay. Grand Rapids, we here in Grand Rapids do like to be on a lot of lists. Sometimes we end up on one or two though we don't want to be on. I wanted to take on a couple subjects that have to do with police and community relations. There's been some great committee work going on, and there's due to be a report released on the 24th of this month what this committee has found. And I just wonder if you can kind of update us a little bit on the process that's been going on community and police relations.
Yes, well, we have a task force that was put together by the City Commission. We each had the ability to choose one person to sit on that task force. And they have been meeting with a group called 21st Century CP, which stands for Community Policing. This group has intervened in cities under consent decrees. That is not the case in Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids, as some other cities in the country, wanted to be proactive and take a look at what can we do to improve police-community relations and listen to our community, and then of course follow up on the traffic study that was done by the Lamberth consultants. So we hired this group, and they have been meeting with the task force, and the most recent topic that they've been discussing is, what does community police look like? How do you determine the staffing levels that you need? deployment, and how do you also, in order to have best practice, get the feedback from the community about what do we think and what do our residents think community policing would look like and should look like.
Okay.
So that report out will come to us, and there will be opportunity for the citizens to listen to it and provide feedback on the 24th. And it will take place at GRPS University, which is on Fuller near Knapp. So look on the city's website if you're interested, and make sure that you attend and give your input and hear what the report has to say.
Okay, my reading on it was a number of recommendations come out of that the task force has come up with maybe 38 or so recommendations, and look forward to hearing more on the 24th about that. Can you just give us a little background what led to the creation of this task force?
Well, I think it's part of the national conversation right now around policing, and Grand Rapids, of course, is not immune to that. So we had, about 2-3 years ago, we had a group called Stop It come to us, and that was some area ministers and leaders that got together and talked to us about community policing. And then there was a group that came out of Link, and they came forward with a 12-point plan. You might recall that at that time, police officers around the country, and Grand Rapids included, got body cams. So that was, for example, one of those recommendations. Another one was the traffic study. So we have been gradually working through those recommendations. It included our changing our hiring practices to be more inclusive, not just in the police department, but also the city of Grand Rapids. So, for example, if you go to any of the commission night out gatherings that we have, because we try to get out into the communities quarterly when we have our commission meetings, there's always a small job fair there. So all of the departments will show up and talk about what they do and encourage people to apply for jobs in the city of Grand Rapids. We've got about half of our workforce retiring in the next 5 years. Some of that's already happened, so we really do have an opportunity now to diversify our workforce, not just in the police department, but throughout the organization.
So an indication of how deliberate recruitment for the police department is in that I saw on a police vehicle, we're hiring.
Yeah, I did too. There's a sticker on the back. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to take a break now, and when we come back, you'll be speaking with City Clerk Joel Hondorp, and we'll be right back after this break. City Connection here on GRTV LiveWire Channel 24.
Okay, right.
Hi, my name is Kristen, and I work for the Grand Rapids Public Library. Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is a Mexican holiday that honors family and friends who have passed on. Loved ones come together to build an altar, or ofrenda, that celebrate the life and memory of the dead. The day is a time of celebration and joy, filled with talk and memories of those who have died. On the ofrenda, many significant objects are placed as gifts to the deceased loved ones. The altar holds 4 important elements: water, wind, fire, and earth. These are represented by a pitcher or glass, candles, punched paper, and food, usually pan de muerto. Other items on the altars include sugar skulls, flowers, photos, and religious items. Each year, the Grand Rapids Public Library invites members of the community to create altars to share the memory of their family or friends who have passed away. The community altars will be on display Wednesday, October 31st, through Sunday, November 4th at the main library. Every altar is unique, and taken together create a fascinating portrait of what the citizens of Grand Rapids hold close to them. The library holds a family day during Dia de los Muertos on Sunday, November 4, from 1 to 4:30 p.m. There will be educational activities for families, including a bilingual story time, music from Gabriel Estrada III, crafts, and face painting. Food will be provided by El Granjero and Tamales Mary. Pan de Muerto provided by Panderia Margot. We will also have a free movie screening of Pixar's Coco on Sunday, October 27th at 10:30 a.m. Families can relax and enjoy the film in the main library. It will be played in English with Spanish subtitles. An exhibit of the work of Mexican artist Jose Guadalupe Posada will be on display at the main library through November 11. Posada was a printmaker and engraver who lived and worked during a period of Mexican history characterized by social and political upheaval. He illustrated historic scenes, board games, and commercial items, religious images, various books, and newspapers. He is most famous for his use of cavalleras, depictions of skulls and skeletons to satirize and mock corruption of the wealthy and political elite. The exhibit includes 20 of his prints from the GVSU print and drawing cabinet. To learn more about Dia de los Muertos and related programming, visit grpl.org/Day of the Dead.
Well, Joel, welcome today. This is Joel Hondorp, and he is the new city clerk of the city of Grand Rapids. We were fortunate to get Joel to come apply here, and we chose you to be our clerk, Joel. Joel's from Byron Center, Michigan, so not very far away, so he's quite familiar with Grand Rapids.
Right.
And if you could, Joel, talk a little bit about the upcoming election.
Sure, Commissioner. It's been exciting 5 months. I have one election under our belts, and our staff's getting ready for this upcoming election. So for people who might not know, this is a gubernatorial election, and usually it's a little bit lower turnout. But we saw in the August primary, people are excited to vote this year. So we're treating this election like it's a presidential election. We're seeing that action around the country of people getting excited. Usually we're only about 3,000, 4,000 absentee applications. At this time we're about 7,000 applications. So we're seeing a high interest. So our office is preparing as if this was a presidential election. And that means we'll hire more workers than we normally do in a gubernatorial. We're making sure that we get people more opportunities to vote absentee than we normally do in a governor's race. We're treating this like it is a November election. So one of the changes this year, voters will see there won't be a straight party option on their ballot. Right. So they'll have to go race by race. And so you can't mark Republican, Democratic, Libertarian, whatever your party may be, you need to go. And you can split your vote, unlike in August where you had to choose stay in one lane. This one, all lanes are open this time.
Okay, that's going to be confusing, isn't it?
And so voters can vote maybe Republican in one office, Democrat in another. They can look at the candidate's qualifications and they can pick whichever candidates they want to vote for. And voters aren't beholden to vote for every office. If they don't know any of the people and they haven't researched, it's okay. They can vote for one or two positions, all positions. Their ballot will count for the positions that they vote. They just can't overvote. So if it's vote for one, only vote for one.
That's true.
So right. That would throw out their vote. And there's 3 sections to this ballot. There's the partisan section, so governor, U.S. Senator, Secretary of State, Attorney General, State Rep, and then the statewide positions for education boards. Then there's the nonpartisan, so your Supreme Courts and Circuit Court, all those judges are on there, Grand Rapids Community College, local school districts, and then there's 4 proposals in most of Grand Rapids precincts. There's a few that have other school districts that'll have school proposals. Right. So it's a very verbose ballot.
To say the least. So can you give us some suggestions to prepare for this ballot?
So my slogan and our office slogan all through is "Know before you go." So voters can go to www.michigan.gov/vote. Once again, michigan.gov/vote. You put in a couple pieces of personal information about yourself, and this is the Secretary of State's website. And on that website, you can see a sample ballot, so you can see exactly what your ballot is.
Excellent.
The wording of those proposals. Also on those, there's links to candidates' websites and their campaign finance. If you're requesting an absentee ballot, you can see the status of your absentee, if we mailed it yet, see if we received it, and then you can also find where your polling location is. So if you're unsure, we change polling locations every once in a while. If you want to be sure where you're supposed to go, that'll tell you exactly where to go.
Exactly, right. So what do people do if they're not sure where they have to vote if they've just moved?
If they've just moved, there's several different ways. If you're already a registered voter in the state of Michigan, it's really easy. You can go to expresssos.gov. You can go to the Secretary of State's website and just change your address. That's what Commissioner Allen did after he moved out of the city of Grand Rapids. It was really easy for him and his wife. They changed their address and they were voters in their new area.
Great.
So if you're already a registered voter in the state of Michigan, new voters is real easy. They can either go to the Secretary of State's office or to our office and register to vote, and they'll be all set. And you can mail in your application. But if you mail in your application and a first-time voter, you must vote in person for the first time. So that gets a little confusing for college students who do voter registration drives, or if they've been at like Central Michigan or Michigan State or U of M in a previous year, and now they've moved home or they've moved into the workforce, and they're still registered to vote at their dorm, and they've never done anything with their voter registration since the 2016 election, they're going to come in to vote, and they're going to find out they're still registered to vote in Ann Arbor, East Lansing. So it's really important for students to know that if they change their address, there are implications for doing so.
So they can either go online and find out where they are registered?
Correct, and then they can change their voter registration, but they need to do it by October 9th.
Okay, that's coming up.
So October 9 by 4 p.m. is the time for people to register to vote.
Okay, good. So we can go online and get all that information and talk about the city. Where do we find this information?
Sure, on our website, it's so grandrapidsmi.gov. Yeah, grandrapidsmi.gov/clerk. And also, if for some reason you say, hey, I want to be involved in this process, we have a job for residents. And it can be anybody in the state of Michigan can work anywhere as long as they're a registered voter, or they can be 16 or 17 years old too.
Okay, so talk about that job. How much does
So-
it pay? And what
So
are you
if you're going to be an election worker for the city of Grand Rapids, it's $150 for the day. Don't figure out what the hourly rate is.
It's a long day.
It's a long day, and then if you're a chairman, it's a little bit more. Also, you need to attend a class, and that we pay about $20 for that. But it's not so much doing it for a job. It's a 1 day
Right.
or 2 days a year, and it's getting involved in your community, getting into that local, into the trenches of elections. And those people are so important, and we need them, especially people with computer skills or bilingual skills will be so helpful.
Right, so how can they get in touch with you
And so
if they're
on
interested
that
in that?
same website, grandrapidsmi.gov/clerk, they can go to election workers. There's an application there. It's a really simple application to fill out, and we'll train you. And it's a really good grassroots way of getting involved in the election process.
Right, so that's very important. I hope that people will be interested in serving as an election worker. Pass it on. It's a good way to make $150.
Yeah,
How long is the
what's
class?
getting ready for Christmas, right?
There you go,
So
Christmas
s-
money.
Some Christmas money.
How about
But
the class? How
it's
long does?
about 2 hours.
Okay.
And then also, we also have a special website for our election workers once they're placed, and all of our information's on there. And the Secretary of State's office has been really good. They have a whole YouTube channel.
Okay.
So if voters want to know about the election process, they can go to that YouTube channel too. It's open to the public, and it talks about processing voters, and so it's hands-on learning as well as classroom learning. So it's about a couple hours. And then if you're going to be one of the people that runs the computer, because we have an electronic poll book that we look at the list, then they'll be trained on that.
Okay, well, our time's getting close to wrapping up. So tell us a little bit about your first experience in Grand Rapids. And
Well, my first experience was Dave Allen resigned the second day on my job.
Oh,
So, so we went through a third ward process of the commission appointing
Right.
Commissioner Moody to the commission. So I got to learn firsthand on how that process
The
works.
appointments process,
And today is
right.
The city manager's first job, Mark Washington. So we
Uh-huh.
went through a city manager search.
that's right.
And
Right.
so it's been a whirlwind of 5 months, but the previous clerk hired a great staff, so she didn't leave me having to hire any staff. And
That's for
and
sure,
I love my staff. The clerk's office is top notch. and we're ready to serve. We also have several other things we do other than elections too.
That's right.
As far as if you need a notary public or need to get your passport, you can come to the clerk's office.
Great. There are many services, and you can find those all online. But
That's
in the
correct.
meantime, let's encourage the public to get out and vote
That's
in November.
right.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Hi everyone, I am Anna Gerkink. I'm the Outreach Coordinator here at GRTV, part of the Grand Rapids Community Media Center. If any of these words makes you like go, what? What are they? What is she? Where does she work? That is perfect, because I want to invite you to our coffee hour on October 10th at 4 p.m. We'll have coffee and we'll have some goodies for you to eat, and we'll give you a tour at Wealthy Theater. The coffee hour is at 4 o'clock, October 10th at Wealthy Theater. Register at the link, and I'm excited to see you there to talk more about all the things that the Media Center does here in Grand Rapids.
The Rapidian for the community provides an alternative.
To be the eyes of somebody who's not there.
It's more honest, more authentic, and more true.
And you do have the freedom to talk about things because they're things that need to be talked about, not because they'll get readers or viewers or clicks.
Sometimes it feels intimidating to write a news story or to write a story about a community issue. What I love about the Rapidian is that they make it really simple and easy.
So it's not like you have to meet this deadline by this time.
I'll be eating a sandwich in one hand and then I'm like typing in the other.
I love the freedom to be able to write from wherever.
I think it's a really powerful experience when people are able to tell their story and to be heard.
Anyone can have a voice.
Anybody can speak.
It's a platform for the community to tell its own story in a very authentic way, and that's powerful.
A community has to be involved in order for it to be sustainable. And so it tells you something about our community.
Welcome back to City Connection. I'm in studio with our city clerk, Joel Hondorp. Welcome to the show. Ruth Kelly in the studio as well. Great conversation between the two of you, and we've already got a few citizen questions for you because there's a lot of excitement over upcoming election. First one has to do with a citizen proposal, a group of citizens wondering about the possibility or looking to maybe coincide our city elections with state and federal ones, and the good and the bad of that, if the voter interest is better when you do that, or if it's just too much going on when that happens. This question comes from Fred.
Sure, I think that's a great question. Obviously this is kind of fresh because the group asked the City Commission at the last City Commission meeting to consider it. So the mayor asked the attorney and I to take a look at what that resolution might be. So I talked to my friends in the city of Wyoming who recently did that. What it would possibly potentially do is move those elections to the November even year. Which means it doesn't mean opening up the charter, the City Commission can pass a resolution and move the elections. It would mean Commissioner Kelly would get one more year on the City Commission because every City Commissioner sitting would get an extra year because there would be no election next year in 2019. The next city election would be in 2020. But it's up to the Commission to pass that resolution. Would it be high? It would be higher voter turnout or voters voting just because, as we see, there's a lot higher turnout. So a 60% turnout in a presidential election compared to 7 or 8% in an odd year. So, but the voters that are involved in those in those odd year elections are really involved citizens too. So you would have voters that are more in tune to what is going on. And also, you do have some fall off from the top of the ticket to the bottom of the ticket. You'll see, you might have a 60% turnout, but as the voter goes through the ballot, they might not be voting in those lower positions. But it would be a raw number more voters in an even year election than it would be an odd year election.
Okay, a couple questions to follow that up with.
Yeah.
You describing the ticket makes me, brings up the question that it does work as the higher office is at the top of the ticket and then it goes down in order, and you're saying people may not read far enough to.
Correct, it goes from the biggest to the smallest.
Okay.
And so it starts with governor or president or electors for president, and then it moves all the way down to school boards and then the city. So the city elections would be just before the proposals.
Gotcha.
But that's not to say that it would be less people voting. It would be more people voting, but it also takes the focus off the elections too, because the mayor or commission candidates that are running for office may be lost in the mail, and all the mailings that come out and newspaper coverage. So when it's an odd year, MLive, and other radio stations are really covering local elections. They might not be, if it's the presidential election, you don't see a lot of coverage for city commission as much. So it's one or the other. There's cost implications too. If there isn't an odd year election, the city won't be running elections. There still may be elections because the Rapid or GRCC or any of the schools could still run millage elections. So just because the city moves its elections, City of Wyoming moved their elections a couple years ago, and they still have, seems like, elections every time between their 6 or 7 school districts they have that come into the City of Wyoming.
Any other input from the City of Wyoming now that they've done this for a couple of years?
It works well for them. It's been positive. It does give the clerk staff maybe a summer off rather than running elections, but we like running elections, so whatever the city commission decides, the clerk's office is willing to do whatever we need to do.
Commissioner Kelly, any insights on what the commission's thinking, or as?
Not really, because we just heard this at our last commission meeting, and we haven't met yet, so we have been waiting for this report, and then we'll have an opportunity to discuss it. But I think both of you nailed it in the trade-offs. So the local elections won't get as much attention because there will be so much other media coverage, and of course, the presidential, the governor's races, they always get a lot of media coverage. We're always struggling to get our messages out there as a city, period. But on the other hand, then they're all lined up and more people come out. I think we do a little bit better than 7 or 8%, but it hovers around 10 or 12.
Yep.
Maybe the last primary was higher than that because voters are so engaged right now. But the voter turnout is different. It's a question of whether or not people are going to pay enough attention, and of course we want them to be well informed.
Okay. Well, we have yet another question for you. So you've really got the interest going, or at least it's an indication of what this election season is like for citizens. This one has to do with absentee voting and what the deadline is for somebody that's a registered voter.
Sure. Absentee voting, actually somebody can get an absentee ballot up until 4 o'clock the day before the election. On the Monday before the election, I'll work backwards through the calendar. Okay. So election day is November 6th. November 5, if someone needs to vote absentee, they have to vote it in our office. So they can get an absentee ballot. So if they find out they're going to have surgery the next day or they get called out of town because of an emergency, they can get an absentee, but they have to vote it in our office. On the Saturday before, which is November 3, voters can vote, will be open from 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon on that Saturday before. So voters can come in that day, they can take the ballot home with them. That's also the last day we can mail a ballot. Well, if you know the U.S. Postal Service, mail isn't one day anymore. So if you're requesting an absentee to come out by mail, you're probably not going to see it until after Election Day or to get it back. Then going back from there, our office is open 8 to 5 every day, but we're going to have a few Tuesdays and Thursdays, the couple weeks before the election, where we'll be open from 5 to 7 so voters can come. And then on Sunday, October 28th, we'll be having in-person absentee voting at City Hall. We're going to open up City Hall again, just like we did in 2016. So from noon to 5 on Sunday, October 28th, City Hall will be open for in-person absentees. Voters can vote their ballots right there, put them in an envelope, and then we'll count them on Election Day, and then, or they can take the ballots home with them and look at them. There's a couple ways to get your ballots back. You can drop them off at City Hall if you have absentee ballots. We also have a drop box on 300, right across on Ottawa, so about 300 Ottawa. There's a drop box, so voters can just drop them off in that drop box. It's locked and sealed. And then also they can mail them back. They have to be back by election morning or on election day. We count them. We get this question a lot that says, do you only count the ballots if it's a close election? No, we count all ballots.
Okay.
So the ballots are counted. The absentee ballot is just as important as somebody that votes in the polling place. It's just another option. And so with the straight party option gone, it might take voters a little bit longer to work through that ballot. So if a voter is over 60, that is one of the reasons why they can request an absentee ballot. They can just call our office. Our office number is 456-3010, or send us an email, and we'll get them an absentee application. It'll make it easier. They have the time at their own kitchen table to work through the ballot, read the newspaper, figure out who they want to vote for, and sometimes voters get surprised by the length of some of the wording on these proposals, and this will give them a lot more opportunity. So I really encourage voters, if they feel like they need that extra time to get that absentee ballot, but there are voters who, there's part of that, Americana of going to your local polling place. And so we're not discouraging it, but if voters have the opportunity to go to the polling place at a time, not at the beginning of work or right after work, it would be nice if we can spread those out. We watch those times, but 10 o'clock in the morning is a good time for some voters, just saying.
Is that a quiet time for you?
It's a little bit quieter time,
Okay.
10 o'clock or
Right.
3. Maybe it won't be now.
Well,
but-
people don't want to stand in line a long time,
No.
so that's
and
knowing when to
that's
go.
good.
and we don't want them to be in line either.
Right.
And we'll have plenty of ballots, one for each person. So
Just one.
just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine you bring that up a little bit because of the surprise at the primaries that
Yeah.
there was so much more attention. And do you maybe have a formula or a way of looking at, okay, this many absentees means we're looking at double, you're preparing for
Well,
a
we order for presidential, gubernatorial, for the November, we order 100% ballots. So we order enough ballots for everybody.
every registered voter.
Yeah, so we have enough ballots. In August, we can use a formula. So we looked at what we had we didn't look at 2014 because that wasn't an open governor's race. We looked more at 2010, 2002, just to see what are those turnouts. And it normally was 15%, maybe 18%. Well, it was 27, 28% in the city of Grand Rapids. So we didn't know exactly what to expect, and we had enough ballots, but we had to take some from the stock. So there was about 5 or 6 precincts that needed a little bit extra attention, but we got the ballots out there, and it worked well. But for this one, we have 100%. So we split them between the absentees and the precincts, but we'll have no problems with ballots, and we'll work on lines and getting people through and have booths enough for people to vote. And we have newer equipment too, so some voters may have not seen this new equipment. It really won't be a big change to them. You fill in an oval just like we've always done. We just have some new, and then for getting results at the end of the night, it's going to be really nice too because they have modems, but the modems are only for plugged in after the polls close, and it gets the information down to the county. So if they go to accesskent.com, as soon as you'll start seeing results at probably about 8:05. Whereas we used to not see Grand Rapids results till midnight, 2 in the morning, in the primary and also the November odd year election. We saw results coming in right at 8:05 as the polls closed. So that's kind of nice, that new technology.
But you might want to add, those modems are not connected to the internet.
No, they're not. They're cellular modems.
With a server in Russia.
And they're, yes, so
There you go.
they're just attached. And voters can be know full well that their vote is secure. It is counted properly. Our staff is right now in the process of testing, so we have to go through a promulgated rules which is a fancy word for figuring out that each vote will be cast no matter how they. So we vote ballots in several different ways to make sure that the machine tests, that the program works, and that each ballot is tested, and that's happening in every single precinct everywhere in the state of Michigan. And so there's a program on the card, and so we're testing that program right now.
Okay, and with just the last couple of minutes to go, the big question is, what do I need when I show up to the polls? What
Sure.
do I need as an ID? What
Yes.
if I don't drive? All
Yeah,
that
so you'll be asked to show an ID. Could be a driver's license. If you no longer drive and have expired Michigan driver's license, that will still work. A student ID, so Ottawa Hills, Union, Grand Rapids Catholic Central, Grand Rapids Christian, a student ID will work as well.
Does it have to have your home address?
Nope, doesn't have your home address. It just has to have your picture. We're using the ID to verify that a name and a picture, that's you.
Okay.
And then with the driver's license, we swipe it in the e-poll book, and it brings up your record. That's all we're swiping for.
Your record of what?
Of your voter record.
Okay,
Sorry.
driving record.
Sorry, your voter record. So we can issue you a ballot. It just makes it easier for processing.
Clarify that even further. Does it show how I voted?
Nope, it doesn't show because
Okay.
it's
Every
a secret ballot.
Okay, and every election then I've participated in, is that what it shows?
Not on that.
Okay.
Whether you voted or not, that is a public record, but not how you voted. But if you don't have your picture ID, if you're out taking the dog for a walk, or you're taking a morning walk, and you see there's nobody in line, and I want to go vote, but I don't have my ID with it, that's okay. If you don't have your ID with you, there's on the back side of your application, there's an affidavit saying, I swear by penalty of it would be a felony that I don't have my ID with me. It's a $1,000 fine potentially. So you would fill out that affidavit. So you don't have to have ID. You don't have to have ID with you.
You have to just promise you are who you are.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And sometimes this is still a paper. A lot of it's a paper process. It's governmental function. Sometimes those records get lost or misplaced. Computers are not infallible, and clerk staff and Secretary of State staff are not infallible, and sometimes something happens with a voter's record. If they're not on the record or not on the rolls when they vote, there are other options called a provisional ballot. So people can vote. They have to do another swear that's not like a bad swear, but it's swear an oath. Yes, that they are who they are and that they did register to vote on time, and we have a process for that. So.
Felons can vote too in Michigan.
Yes, as long as they're not serving their time. So if they have served their time to society, yes. So if they have served their time to society, they are now eligible to vote again.
Yeah, that's often comes up. It's a matter of confusion. So
or also if they're sitting at Kent County jail and waiting to be sentenced, they can vote absentee.
Okay.
So there's other reasons why someone has to be, and if you're going to go out of town, the language says you expect to be absent from the community.
Okay.
So that's another reason people request an absentee. The two big ones are over age 60 and expect to be absent from the community.
And given parking concerns, it makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
At this
Absentee
point
would be easier.
absentee. Yes.
All right. Well, Joel Hondorp, thank you for being a part of the show today. Last thing I want you to tell us, polls open 7 a.m., close at 8 p.m.?
Yes, you got it, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you are in line at 8 p.m., you can still vote. You can't get in line, but so if it's busy at the end of the evening and you get in line, you can still vote.
Great. Joel Hondorp, he is a city clerk here in Grand Rapids, serving the position since April and ready for the November 6th elections. We'll take a break and be right back.
Why do local businesses spend their marketing dollars with Community Media Center? Because it's more than just passive advertising. It is an investment in the community that is eager to invest in you. The Community Media Center makes Grand Rapids vital. We collaborate with local businesses and support events in West Michigan. Inclusive. We amplify local voices that tell the diverse and ever-changing stories of our community. Creative. We encourage artists to showcase and expand their talents and to shape the look and sound of Grand Rapids. Marketing with the CMC will let our community know who you are and increase brand recognition for your business. At the end of the day, we are a resource that will keep you connected to the community. Share your message with diverse audiences by underwriting with WYCE, GRTV, Wealthy Theater, and the Rapidian. Join us in building a stronger community through media. Contact us at marketing@grcmc.org.
Welcome back to City Connection. Again, we're live on October 1st, and I'm Linda Gellasch with Community Media Center in studio with Commissioner Ruth Kelly. We've got a few more minutes to close things out, talk a little bit about all things Grand Rapids. Great information from our city clerk, Joel Hondorp. A busy season for him, so glad he's taken the time. Just like we've talked about a little bit already, just the indications that this is going to be a very busy, very active election, all a good thing.
Yes, it is. People need to get out and vote.
Absolutely. Well, the one he did bring up something that I wanted to cover real quickly. He mentioned our new city manager, Mark Washington.
That's right. He started today.
Today is first day on the job. I think he's doing actually his first press conference tomorrow, maybe before the city commission meeting, something like that. But next week is it a open house? What's going on next?
He'll be swearing in. Yes, so people certainly are invited to join us. It will be at 6 o'clock, right before our commission meeting. We don't have commission tomorrow. But so yeah, if you want to meet Mark and come in and witness that, it's a big event that we have replaced our former city manager, Greg Sundstrom, who retired, and now we're welcoming Mark Washington from Austin.
Okay, so a long time coming. The city actually went through 2 search rounds, with a desire to be very deliberate and thorough and get the best candidate, and city obviously feels they've done that with Mark Washington.
Yes.
Look forward to actually having him on the program somewhere in the future, as soon as he's adjusted to the new position.
Right. He'll be very busy for a while, meeting so many people in Grand Rapids.
Great. Well, I wanted to kind of close things out with your ward, with the 2nd Ward again, because you bring a specific perspective of all things going on the ground over in that section of our town. And one thing that we were talking about quickly off camera, you mentioned to me, and I've heard a little bit about this, we talk a lot about all the new construction, all the new buildings, and there's an effort out there right now to restore and preserve a very historic building. And I wanted you to tell us a little bit about this project.
Yes. So there is an old church on the corner of Diamond and Hermitage, and that is in between Fulton Street and Lake Drive. So if you're familiar with that area, it's very close to Congress School. And the address actually is 1001 Hermitage. So Carol Moore, who is a resident in the East Hills neighborhood and has been active with the East Hills Neighborhood Association for years, you may remember her from her work on the restoration of the Wealthy Theater, is now taking on yet another restoration project. So this ancient church, I would say ancient because it was actually around before we put streetlights in the city. It's been around for a very long time. Got to the point where the city had begun a process to condemn it because it was a safety hazard. It probably would not have gotten through last winter if not for Carol negotiating with the owners who were unable to sell it because of its condition. It was just, developers did look at it, even developers who, for example, like Ed DeVries, who have lots of experience in the city in restoring old buildings, and he's been doing it for decades now, just found that it would be too costly to renovate, to take it on and renovate it. So Carol, even though she can't afford it, bought it after it was going to be condemned. And the first thing she did last winter, was put a new roof on it, because if that hadn't been done, it probably would have collapsed. So that was done, and she's in there every single day working on that. She's either scraping and painting or hauling stuff out. I took a tour about 3 weeks ago, and it was amazing. It comes with what was at one time a parsonage. So there's a house and there's a connecting hall in between. It's got a huge basement. And her vision is to turn this into community space again, which would be used for music and arts venues. Inside of the auditorium of the church, the acoustics are wonderful, as are the stained glass windows. Most of those are still intact, and she will have to find experts who can replace some that are broken. But she has set out on this project, and we're very excited about it.
Very excited. We know a little bit simply because of our, because Wealthy Theater was then deeded to Community Media Center after the huge restoration project, and it was a similar situation where that building was actually destined for the wrecking ball and saved because of her efforts in pulling together a community group. Were you a part of that group?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
It was a long time ago.
Very long time ago.
I have, my husband and I, Carl and I, have our name on the back of one of the chairs. There are several brass plaques that are there. They use that to help fundraise, so we all made a contribution, and I suspect Carol's going to have to do the same thing. I know she is. She is in the middle of, with the help of Cam Dunn, setting up a nonprofit now, because it's going to take a lot of time, effort, and certainly funding to get this project off the ground, but then it'll be a fabulous venue. There really isn't a place in the city of Grand Rapids for the kind of the musicians and local talent that we have, whether it's any kind of genre of music, to practice and perform. And it's possible even that house that is attached to this church building could be used as a place for an artist in residence. All that has to be figured out yet, but the possibilities are great. And I know that they also hope to partner with Congress School and Grand Rapids Public, because they could use an auditorium for that, for the school. So children would have to just be guided across the streets safely, and might be able to use that facility as well to put on performances for parents, to practice, or to learn from experts.
Very exciting project. So not only all about what's new in Grand Rapids, but what is our history that we're restoring, and very very committed citizen member Carol Moore at the head of this project. Once again, another one of these projects. It's wonderful news.
Yeah.
Well, Ruth Kelly, Commissioner for the 2nd Ward, thanks for being here. Thanks for sitting in for our mayor, and it's always great to have you here. You're an old hand at this now, and we always learn so much when you come in studio. So thanks again for being part of City Connection.
Happy to, and thank you for all you do to inform the community. We appreciate that.
Much thanks, much thanks. Well, this is City Connection. It's the October edition. We'll be back in November. We do the show the first Monday of the month, typically at 5 p.m. I'm Linda Gellasch for Grand Rapids Community Media Center.